Okay, so at this stage of the game, once you've established the separate parts of your mobile form, so right here I have this kind of plug, I have this fire extinguisher. I haven't put on the other parts of the fire extinguisher. I can do that at the very end. But right now I'm going to start to do the wheels. So I had printed out these like bicycle wheels, and I'm thinking about scale. So I'm going to increase the size of the scale, and it will also help to activate parts of the paper that have not been activated, because a lot of the activity is kind of going on this diagonal here. So what I just did is I did a quick little sketch, and you can kind of see it here of the scale I want these wheels to go. And I'm going to have one here, and one's going to be on the other side of this form, about right here. I mean, you can kind of lightly sketch that in, but you don't know how big that's going to be until you draw this one, and then it goes to the vanishing point. So in terms of scale, I want this to break the plane of that line here, because I think if it's within it, it's too close. It's not going to be enough of a contrast. So I wanted to break the plane of the line, and that way it would enter into this area of the composition that's not being activated. So that was my reasoning in terms of scale, and it makes it more ridiculous too. I think that's kind of a fun thing. So I made a video before and showed you how to draw these wheels in 2-point perspective. I actually drew it this way, but since this is in a completely different direction, you just flip it, same concept, just going back in space there. So the second wheel is going to be about this big, going back in space, because you can see my rectangle that I made for that one there. So what I'm going to do here, since I don't need this as a reference anymore, eventually I'll put the spokes in, but that might be a separate video. This is just a starting point. Now that I sketched this out, and I have a good sense of scale, what I'm going to do, I might want to go a little bigger. Why not just a little bigger? The more ridiculous, the better. So I think I'm going to go from here. I'm just going to put a little dot, a mark it, and then I'm going to go up to here. I'm going to put a little dot, I'm going to mark it. Those two lines I'm going to connect to this vanishing point. And if you can't see it, there's a vanishing point in this direction. Put this here. Grab my, maybe I can use this guy. Yes, I can use this one because it's close enough. So I have my, I don't know if you can see the ruler, but I have the ruler connected to the vanishing point up here. I connect it to the point that I just created, and I'm going to put a line there. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing down here, connect it to the vanishing point, or I'm sorry, connect to the vanishing point up at the right vanishing point. There's only two of them. And then I put a line over here. So this is the bottom of the wheel, and this is the top of the wheel. In terms of width, that is something that you're going to have to guesstimate. We talked about this before. In my previous videos, I guesstimated about how wide this would be to appear that it's circular, how wide this would be to appear that it's circular. So you're going to have to kind of guesstimate, knowing that it's going back in space. It's going to be an ellipse that is thin in terms of width. So this little sketch I made, that's why you sketch things out first, just to kind of get a glance, a sense of what it looks like, because you want this to fit the same idea there. If you want to, I'm just kind of doing something like this. So I'm going to put a mark here, and I'm going to put a mark here, and I'm going to draw two vertical lines straight up. And this is somewhat within my sketch. And if it looks funky later on, then I'm going to have to just make an adjustment. But for now, I'm just going with my gut. I'm going to put a line right here. Where is it mark? Marked right here. I'm just using the bottom of the ruler to line up the little graph part of the ruler to make sure it's a vertical line. All right. And I have to extend this line out a little further so it meets, so it meets that line. So this is where the wheel will live, and it's not going to be this huge all the way out here. That's kind of ridiculous. But you can see my sketch, it's somewhat within my sketch. I think I'm happy with that. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to carry, I'm just going to erase this line because I don't need this. It's going to confuse me. I'm going to erase this line. I'm going to carry this over to the other side. And I'm basically going to make a big rectangle. So I just carried that over to the left vanishing point. I'm going to carry this point over to the left vanishing point. In this case, I need a bigger ruler. And then what's nice about already drawing this is that, excuse me, we have this old line here. That's why I don't like you erasing any of your construction lines. You can always go with a different color or value to pull out the form itself, but leave everything else in. The distance between here and here, I kind of lucked out there because that's going to be the thickness of the bicycle tire for me. And I'm going to try to get the same thickness here. Good thing I just noticed this now. I kind of lucked out in terms of that. I might even move this over just a hair just to give myself more of the thickness, but it might be okay. On this side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this line here because it's the other side of this point, and I'm going to draw it straight up and just show where it hits this here. If I were to draw this straight up and show where this hits here, that's starting to work. I'm basically wanting to, the thickness of this, I want to match on the other side. So I know that this and this is correct, and then I can just like add a little, it's gonna be a sliver about this big, probably, it's gonna be really small, but at least I have some kind of guide to work with. And you don't know this stuff until you start to put it in. You just have to put something in and then kind of problem solve as you go. So I'm gonna connect that line back. That represents this line here. Now, trying to figure something out here. Trying to get the thickness of this guy, because it's easy to cross your corners and match that thickness on the inside, but to do it on the outside is a whole nother situation. And I can't figure it out at the moment. So since this video is live, I'm just gonna have to wing it. What I'll do next is, this might, this will help me. So I'm gonna take this corner here, bring it to the left corner there, so you can kind of watch me problem solve as I go. So I'm gonna extend this line all the way out like so. Okay. See where this line intersects this line here? I'm going to take this corner and do the same thing. I'm going to extend it past this corner there. And now I have a line that I can connect with. I know this sounds really confusing, but bear with me. So I'm going to take this point that I just created, connect to the left vanishing point, run it over to the other side. When it meets this line here, the line that I just put in, that goes straight up. That was easier than I thought. And draw a line straight. I'm just trying to make sure my lines are straight. Okay, so there's that. And then now I can take my other point here and connect it to the right vanishing point. You can see how thin that top is. I'm going to take this guy and connect to the right vanishing point. So I basically created a rectangle. I have to do this down here at the bottom as well, but you can see it at the top. I basically created this little thin rectangle. Everything in the middle doesn't exist. I can erase that. I'm just going to leave it there for now so you can kind of see how I got to that point. But here's my rectangle that I can start to cross my corners and make my circular form in. I can do the same thing with the piece behind it, the same way as I did here. And then I'm going to have my two wheels, and this is going to be this kind of mobile form. It'll be nice. Next thing I do you see where these two meet here? I have to connect this to the left vanishing point. Connect here. So it goes there. I'm just going to lightly put this in because this line's going to come down there. And I'm going to put a little arrow so I remember that's the line that I'm working with. And then I'm just going to follow this line down. And again, it's just a straight vertical line. And then the other line already exists because that's the edge. What worked out here is that right here, this is the edge of the bottle or the fire extinguisher. So this tire is going to go right up against that edge. It doesn't have to go right up against the edge, but in this case it will. It could have been out further, but why not? And then this goes right up on that edge. So next move is crossing my corners, and I think I'm going to do this with an orange so you can see what I'm doing on the video. I do have to sharpen this. Constantly sharpen your pencils. If need be, you want it to lighten this. You can get like a kneaded eraser or something, which I don't have, but you can kind of like just get an eraser and just lighten this a little bit. Don't erase it completely because you want the ghost lines to be there. But I'm just taking a little bit of it out. So it's not going to compete with me too much when I put my lines in. And I still have those lines there if I want to make them darker later on, I can. All right, so what I'm going to do now is cross my corners. And I'm doing this really lightly with the orange because I'm going to draw the circle with the red. Cross my corners here, okay? That finds my center. I've probably done this 100 times in these videos. And then I'm going to go straight up with a vertical. And then the center point, I go to the right vanishing point because it's parallel to that line and that line, which also goes to the right vanishing point. Next thing is, since this is such a big ellipse, I really have to kind of do my best and take my time. So I'm going to half this, and then I'm going to try to half this as well. Now remember, this is just a quick visual assessment of halving, so that isn't like totally accurate. So when you bring your curve in, and if you go right on it or above it or below it, you just have to evaluate it later on and see if it's right. So you can always, that's not concrete information. Okay, so that goes here. Half it again goes here. Remember, these remain the same, and it's just this point remains the same, and this point remains the same. And then I half this one, and then I half it again. Now, whenever I half something, it's just a little visual trick I put the point of my pencil here, I look on this side, and I look on this side, and I do it again and again until I feel like they feel even. I feel like this is pretty close to even, like right here. And then I half it again. So now, again, I'm going to connect my lines with a light straight line construction. And full circle. Okay. Now, it looks like some kind of Star Wars design, like a fighter jet pilot or something, or a spaceship of some sort. So now I'm going to take my red, and if I had to make this adjustment later where it doesn't feel that that's the best point, And I can always make that adjustment later. Down in this area is where you're going to have the more dramatic turn. Sometimes I'll go full circle, I'll come around. This is where you're going to have a dramatic turn as well. I missed it completely, and I don't know if it's what I wanted to do. So what I'm going to do is erase that. Maybe it does go out. So that's a good example of that, what I was talking about before. This might not have been a halfway point, and it may have moved out. So I went out a little bit. It just felt like too much of a move from the other one. So there's the circle there. And what I do is I repeat this same circle on the plane behind it. So this right here, which I did not make transparent completely yet, but before you do so, you have to make it transparent. So you see this corner where these two lines meet? Just gonna make it a little more clear. See where these two lines meet right there, this little corner here? Take that corner and connect it to the right vanishing point, because you have to make this a transparent cube. Damn it. There you go. It was the line that was closer that way. And then you take this guy, I'm gonna do my other ruler here, this corner here, and you connect it to the left vanishing point. And all I'm doing is trying to find out where they meet right here. You take that, and then you draw a line straight up. And that establishes here's the bottom line. Okay, so where it goes up, it meets about right here. And then so that back plane is the new circle that I just created. And did I go there? Yeah, that's right. That's correct. All right. And this is where things get very confusing because it's hard to see. So in this case, I think I'm going to cross with my green for the sake of the video, so you can kind of see what I'm doing. Actually, what if I cross with the blue? I think I'll cross with the blue. All right, so I'm going to take this back corner here, and I'm going to connect it to the back corner there. I'm going to take the back corner here and connect it to the back corner there. Mark the center with a big circle, just so you know that that is the line. Those are the lines that you're using here, because again, it gets very confusing. There's a lot of overlapping lines. You really have to pay attention. It takes a lot of focus. Next thing you do is you take that center point and connect it to the right vanishing point. And then you draw a vertical line through that center point as well. So you can kind of see the blue line, and it's, again, very confusing, but you have to pay attention. So you're going to go from this corner to this corner, and you're going to half it, and you're going to half it again. And if you have to put a big dot just for your own sanity, do it. This stays the same, which is right above there. This diagonal, you have to half, and then you're going to half again, which looks like it's about right here. Some of this is going to go on top of the old circle, some's going to be behind the old circle. So you want to be as true as you can to half and halving. Half and half again. And then remember that this one stays, this blue line that goes here, it hits the green, just put a little dot. I already have this one stays the same, put a little dot, and then you have this big diagonal here, which is misleading in terms of its size, so then there's the dot there. And then again, I'm going to connect my lines. Oh, I forgot to put the dot here, just so I know what to connect to. Or connect your dots, not your lines. Connect your dot. Connect your dot. Connect the dot. Oops. Right here. Right here. And then back to full circle. So that blue geometric octagon form is what I'm trying to draw. And now I'm going to take my red, sharpen it. And I'm just basically doing the same thing. I put a dot here and I just made a major mistake. Not a major mistake, I almost made a major mistake, but it was actually out here. This is the dot, where the dot exists, not here. So that was an oops on my part. So this goes out here and then it goes way out here. So, and my halfway point here, as I look at it again, I kind of did it too quickly. So if I think it's more or less out here. And that's going to change the thickness of my line, because right here is pretty thick. So as you continue this, you're going to make adjustments. And I'm just following those little dots that I made. In some cases I go outside the area by accident, not a big deal. Okay, so now you kind of see the wheel. It gets smaller up here, wider here, and then the transparency part is wider. Now they start to kind of push and pull each other. You can't tell what is the circle that's closest to you and what's the circle that's further away, and that's where line weight comes in. So the one that's on the exterior, once you have a pretty confident sense of the line, then you can go back on in there and make this a little darker. Make this one a little darker. And the darker one will pull forward visually, and the lighter one will recede in space. You can kind of see it popping out now a little bit more. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler here. I'm going to find the most outer part down here at the bottom, connect it to the left vanishing point there. And all I'm going to do is making a quick line like that. And it just connects these 2 points. And then it just flows right back into the line there. So I don't have to, I can erase that little section. I did all that just for that one line. And you're going to do the same thing here, but it goes to that vanishing point because it's parallel. It doesn't go to that vanishing point because it's this vanishing point. So it goes from here to here. Oh, darn it. Sometimes this ruler just kind of slips. So you can kind of see the line I put in. I'm going to blend it back into that straight line. I'm going to blend it back into this guy. And then just try to like bring it back in. And then I can somewhat erase this. And you have your one wheel. The great thing about this too, so I'll make this video too long, it's already 24 minutes. You already have the center spoke, and you have 2 center spokes. So if you were to just connect those 2 points right here, they should line up right where you hit the vanishing point. That's it, that's the center spoke. And then from there, you can just connect everything. I mean, you already have some of the spokes going to the center hub. You can make this hub a little bit bigger, right? I mean, you're gonna have to do a little bit more than that, but I'm just gonna make it a little bigger there. And then you can basically divide these spaces in half, like right here. So if you go up along the rectangle here, you could probably divide this in half again, and then you can divide in half again, and divide in half again. And then you can take those points and just connect them right to the center of the front, since that's what I'm doing here. Now let's see if this works. I don't know, I've never did this before. It might look a little weird because maybe you need to, it works because you're basically using the square to find these center spikes. So that's what I would do afterwards to get this kind of look, this design. I'm gonna go from the front all the way around, and I'm gonna go from the back all the way around. But the more I look at this, I just realized the spokes look like they're kind of lined up in the center of the hub. So if that's the case, then I could just draw another line that's somewhat in the center of this whole thing, and I could use that as a guide to connect these forms. But I might not do that. I just might go the other approach. I don't think it's that important. After I finish this, actually before I finish this, I would probably want to draw the one that's behind it before I put too much information here, and then I can't see what I'm doing. But you have all the information there. You do have to connect the bottom of this to the right vanishing points, and then this draws a line down so you can kind of see that rectangle. And you're basically going to do the same exact thing as you do here. It's going to be a little smaller. But once you're done, you're done. It does take a long time to draw these circles, but once you're finished, you're finished. Then you can move on. Next will be the ground plane.